Hey y'all, I'm Gerry Mecca here at the Market Scale Studios, the Skyline Studio in Dallas, and just wanted to kind of let you guys in on the breaking news. If you've listened to my podcast in the past, the Mecca Minute, we've decided to make a video long form version of it called the Mecca Minutes, long form. Let's say 10, 20 minutes, but because I don't want to bore you. But the purpose of this is to take into consideration some of the things I've learned over the last year and a half being out on my own, selling my services. In September of last year, I began coaching, and coaching was not my intent. I wanted to help people, but mostly I was looking for leads and getting some business. And I've now met about 50 different leaders. And something struck me that I think isn't all that unique, except there's a lot of talent out looking for work. Most of the people I meet are, let's just say, seasoned leaders. They're looking for roles, but maybe they're not really looking for full-time positions. Many of them are looking for something that would give them the satisfaction of working, but maybe just 10, 20 hours a week, and working in association with large firms, small firms, people who need these seasoned leaders. Today, I've got Kenton Kistler with me. Kenton is among other things a great friend, and but also has a networking group called the Executive Connection. And I felt for the first sort of preamble to our kickoff of Mecca Minutes, we'd talk a little bit about what he's seen, and you'll see how this time has created a demand for what we call fractional leadership. Now that's whether it's IT like me, or whether it's marketing, or whether it's finance. Corporations need the senior leadership, but they may be in a $5 to $50 million revenue category, and maybe they're not quite ready for the C level that many of my colleagues and many of the attendees at the Executive Connection are experiencing difficulties in finding roles. What I'm now doing, and what will happen as we go on with this podcast, I will be bringing on fractional leaders, folks who are in this situation, if you want to call it that, and take advantage of what has become a trend in the industry to have these leaders be present when they're needed, rather than them being a full-time employee. And the benefit, of course, to corporations are it's a fraction of the cost of them being hired full-time. And in many respects, they could end up being the leaders who help train your existing team, or identify the folks on your team that are maybe for the future, and maybe identify some of the ones that aren't so ready for the future. So Kenton, yeah. I do appreciate you coming in, and been to Executive Connection, I guess, since it started.
Yeah.
And I'd never really thought much about this fractional job facilitation role that I've suddenly become. And I want you to maybe tell me a little bit about Executive Connection, and then where you see this fractional leadership opportunity going.
Thanks. Appreciate you, Mecca. So we've been buddies for, a couple decades probably. Yeah. Yeah. So Executive Connection, 18 years this year. So really the idea behind it was to create a cross-functional forum to give local DFW leaders an opportunity to interact and collaborate with their peers. No salespeople, no sponsors, no vendors. It's really about them authentically having that opportunity to connect for whatever reason. Could be for a job, could be for boards, it could be just for fun. Mm-hmm. It's really to build their brand and get more exposure in the market. Yeah. It's worked very, very well. So we've transitioned a lot, due to COVID, and kind of, the early days were all about panel discussions. Thanks to you, we were able to interview the chairman at Dr. Pepper. Yep. You ran that, so thank you. Oh. And now we've evolved to more of a cocktail hour, which I think people feel a little bit more loose when they have a couple drinks in them. So I do. Same. So it's been a great journey, and it continues to evolve. So to kind of go back to your point of fractional, here's what I'm seeing. Is and I think a lot of people will agree, there's a lot of uncertainty at the CEO level.
Sure.
And you're seeing a lot of CEOs flip out at companies. They're switching out. And so typically what happens is they'll bring in, a new CEO brings in their own team, which then everything transitions, regardless of your role, they're moving out, bringing in the new. So because the CEO role is so vulnerable and it's changing all the time, in my opinion, I see a huge opportunity for fractional, because you can get the best of both worlds. You can come in at whatever role in the C-suite and fill those gaps while there's changes happening, and they can have as much as they want. They can have as little as they want. They don't have to sign up for full time. And you can help. And when they bring somebody in, you can help transition to those people. So in my opinion, I think it's good dollars spent for a company. And I think there's a huge market for it. Plus less risk.
Yeah, I fought it for a while.
Yeah.
I was out there trying to convince companies they needed an interim CIO. Maybe I wasn't going to be the long-term one. I would help them fill that role. But inevitably, what happened? I got hired to be the CIO.
Yeah.
And of course, I like that, except now I'm in my latter years. I'm interested in some work, but I don't know that I want full-time work. So I went out and I got my own LLC, and I got my own business insurance, and I got my own medical insurance, and hung up my own shingle, put out my own website, and kept getting asked to do fractional work. Sometimes 4 months, sometimes a year, because people were maybe coming up with their strategy for their company, and they wanted someone to look at all their vendor arrangements, and they didn't want their tech teams or their product teams bogging down in a detail that frankly maybe could be handled by procurement, but because it was SAP licensing or something that's not typical for the guy who's buying widgets, and they need somebody who has that expertise that won't essentially have to learn on the job.
Yeah. So I'll take the politically correct piece out of the equation, and I will tell you that you don't get caught up in the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So the board wants it a certain way, and everybody's got to follow the guidelines, and so you really can't get things done. It gets caught up in legal, it gets caught up in the HR process. So cut all that crap out of the way. Fractionally, you can get things done.
Sure.
And as a fractional executive, you're kind of at the point where you can say, you know what? I personally can really do what I want to do, what's in best interest for the company, and not worry about my job and worry about getting let go. Let's go in there and just make these changes that are better for everybody. Companies also get the benefit of quick decisions, right? And let's face it, you hire a full-time person, everybody wants a full-time job, right? There's some security behind it. But if you're fractional, the whole legalities, letting people go, the cost of letting people go, it's a smart model.
You can be honest. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want to be full-time. In fact, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute anybody who reaches out from me, having seen this or seen later podcasts, to say, hey, how can I do this? I love the sound of that. Well, I haven't had any trouble finding those people. I set up Norma's Cafe as my little office, and people would show up, and we talked. Good food. So a little publicity for Norma's.
off the tollway.
It's a really good spot. But just they come in and they say, look, I'm not sure I want to be a full-time employee, but also they've recognized all those political things. You can come in and tell somebody their baby's ugly. I don't mean you want to say they're bad, but you don't have any repercussions. You're not going to piss. Well, you could make them upset, but But I totally think that is, and lots of things are happening. Obviously, the economy, not being able to take chances on some C-level multi-$100,000 position. I'll call it a glut. My experience is from going to the executive connection, there's a lot of in transition folks there too. And when I talk to them about this, they're like, what can we do this? So my mission has been, through modifying the EKG group, to take in these folks, show them how to get it done, get it set up so that they can be placed. I don't want to be the placement firm. I don't want to be what are some of these I'm trying to think without giving too many promotionally, but was Tatum. Remember Tatum? They used to do placements, but they were looking to do full-time jobs. I'm literally saying
it's basically a CIO or it's a C-level consultancy.
that's right.
So they're incented to keep you billing.
That's and they're in this case, you're an independent.
Mm-hmm.
You can fire your client after whatever period of time if you don't like them, and vice versa. They can be part ways with you. Sure, I'm going to be showing folks the way to do a 90-day trial and then do 6-month extensions, because at some point you do have to decide what you're going to do with your next month. So fractional is a little bit less, but you said it's not stable necessarily, but it can be made stable.
So I'm going to go just a little bit different. Companies think they know what they want.
Yeah.
They don't know what the hell they want.
Yeah.
So they'll level down. They'll say, "Hey, we want this type of person with this skill set for this many years." So it's like, well, that's what you just had.
Yeah.
So you want to hire the same person you just had.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense. At the end of the day, it really boils down to how well your personality and your philosophies gel with the rest of the management team in the company. So I think fractional is a great way of kind of figuring out, hey, does this individual really fit within our environment? It's a cultural thing.
Absolutely.
And they don't have to pay the fees.
No.
There's no 25, 30, 3%, whatever it is anymore. It's insane.
Full-time placement fees. Yeah.
And mine are free, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yours are too, huh?
Yeah, I'm free. I mean,
So
I get some kind of pass-through because I have to use the agency that will get them their documents. Sometimes the customer insists on working with an entity instead of the individual. So you have to be prepared for both. But to your point, there's two other things. So I mentioned the supply is there. I mentioned the economy is pushing the price down. But the other part is you have, a McKinsey and Bain, and they're all going in and saying your workforce is far more sophisticated than it's ever been. You have technical people in the manufacturing, you have technical people in finance. So you don't need a CIO, and CEOs are buying it and they're going, well, let's just hire a smart director. Well, yeah, you can get away with your infrastructure being handled and your security being handled and your apps dev being handled but when it comes to actual ideation, innovation, governance, contract management, these are the spaces that get lost. And what ends up happening is 2 years into a botched ERP implementation, they finally go, we probably should have hired a smart guy in the finance department to govern that. So that, and I don't blame, I think what Bain and McKinsey and Alex partners, they're all doing a really good job of convincing customers that they don't need to maybe go out and spend a bunch of money on IT leadership, but I just think you need a fractional top tech guy or gal that is bringing on your team and making them be able to be the future for your technology.
No, you're right. First to point out, great beard. Wish I could do it.
Thank you. I can.
So as far as the management strategy firms, I'll say it because they have no impact on me whatsoever. Of course, they're going to tell these executives that they don't need a CIO because the CIOs fire their asses.
That's right.
So they don't want a threat.
Yeah.
They want to keep billing $700, $800 an hour for as long as they can. And they want the run of the mill.
Well, you said it. I'm not going to jump on it because a lot of these guys hire me.
They don't hire me, so I have no dog in this game.
But I agree with you. Yeah. I agree. I've certainly paid their fees, particularly during mergers and acquisitions. They're all over it, and often they have like the last one I worked with. I had set up an entire IT organization in a brand new carve out. And they came in and they had all kinds of great questions. And in the end, they validated exactly what I was already doing, which made me think, well, what do we just pay them for? But it's a business saying, and I was an employee. So now the business is feeling better about hiring a third party to validate what the leader they paid for to come in and do, only for them to agree that they're doing the right thing. What kind of insanity is that?
I put this video out on LinkedIn. You've probably seen it. It was actually a takeoff of the Super Bowl commercial with FedEx. Great commercial, by the way, where basically these two management consultants were telling the CEO on the side of the table, you need to do this with your supply chain, blah, 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 blah. And the CEO was like, great, do it. And they said, well, we don't do it. We just tell you how to do it.
Yeah, or
that's what these guys do. Yeah, they just propose it, which, hey, it is what it is. It's good coverage from the board level up. But when you really need to get work done, if they're put in their place and they're managed appropriately, they're very effective. But they're also good in a certain size of market. The bigger companies, well, they're better fit. Mid-market, like we'll talk about, like mid-market, that 500 million to 5 billion, you have to have somebody in place.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
If you have 500 million in revenue and more, and you haven't made a serious commitment to a C-suite tech leader, it's not buried under finance or some of these other foolhardy, arrangements. You really need somebody who's going to be taking the company strategy and building the technology that enables it.
So CIO, let's use that because we're tech guys.
They should be called EIEIO. I don't freaking care.
I don't either, right?
Top tech dude.
So do they report to the CFO or CEO?
CEO.
That I agree.
Gotta be.
Now I do know there's a CFO there, Don, that he's very, very good at what he does. He's very technical, so he understands tech. If you're a CFO and you're very technical, it works. Most are not. And so I agree. They should report up to the CEO because at the end of the day, if those are where the decisions lie. For sure. And any company that says they're not a technology company, they're not going to last. That is where your differentiator is at.
Absolutely. And so at the risk of hugging this out because we're totally in line, I want to say thanks for coming on.
Yeah, right on.
Man, I can't believe this studio is so
amazing.
Awesome. I look at it, I keep thinking, pinch
I'm terrified
myself.
of heights, so I'm making it.
That's pretty funny.
I'm just keeping my back to the window.
Just don't look because it's a long way down.
It's a long way down.
50 some odd floors. But look, if you are a CEO and you aren't sure about your technology future, put together an inquiry to EKG Group. We'll introduce you to a lot of choices. I'm really looking forward to bringing some more guys on and gals. I keep doing that. Guys, I'm from New Jersey, and guys means everybody. But for the purposes of trying to make sure everybody understands the fractional leadership, whether it's marketing, sales, executive leadership, I'd love to have a CEO sit here and tell me how he's carved up on 3 different companies that are small startups. I mean, it doesn't have to only be, the positions below, but just closing off on that C-level tech leader. Every finance guy that I've ever worked for that has owned tech, after he feels comfortable with tech, he says, I don't really want it because it's a distraction. It keeps me from worrying about the price of money, how much, whether I want to capitalize or expense things. If you get technology people who have a business-centric thought process and can talk tech to the techies and board to the board, and that's your purpose of, if you're in that plus 500 million category, or even less. If you're a tech firm and you don't have a tech leader in your C-suite, that's a foolhardy thing. I don't care whether it's $10 million company.
I agree.
But I'm looking at bringing folks in to talk about this, but I'm also interested in helping companies to fill this void that they have in their technical departments or in their tech relationship, whatever it may be. Reach out to me. I can certainly facilitate that. I know about 40 or 50 people I've met since last September that I think are great. Many of them are in interim roles, but really want to be 10, 20 hours a week, maybe. They want contracts, and yet they want some stable business. But and it's also given me an opportunity. I know about 6 or 8 of them that have started their own businesses. Because I suggested it. Here's how to do it. Here's how you can sign up. And man, they love it. And they're now feeling like maybe they're not in these full-time roles that used to be the thing that they wanted, but now they understand this is a good way of doing your own thing and getting their message out and then growing their business to be whatever they want it to be.
Yep.
So
I would tell you, there's one more thing I was going to throw in.
Well, tell me about Pragmatic too, because we've been talking about executive connection, and it's only fair that you came on.
I will promise you I'll get to that, but I want to make sure I get this in. So for companies or executives, whether they're looking for a job or not, there's a couple really good organizations in the Metroplex. I stand behind 100%. SIM, one of them. Technology, they're true to their mission. I'm a big fan, have been for decades. FEI, another great organization for finance executives. And I've seen lately that those two organizations, in some senses, I think they have some special interest groups. They're kind of interconnected, which is great because you're connecting finance, and you're connecting IT. There's another HR, Cindy Lou's out there. Yep. It's called Big HR. Yep. She does a great job of interacting with people. So there's a lot of good organizations to participate in.
I got to get Cindy on. She's great.
She's fantastic. Now, she lives in Florida. So, when she's in every once in a while, you can still get her. Now let's go back to what pragmatic is. So I'm a technology guy. I have been a technology guy for pretty much my entire life. I've worked for big companies, small companies, great companies, terrible companies. At the end of the day, I have been a major study of what they do well or what they did not do well. So I took all that information, processed it, found a CIO as a great partner. We created our own firm 2-3 years ago. And we're out and we provide digital product services. So you have an idea or a concept that you want to take to market. We will help you think through it. We'll design it and then we'll build it for you. Or if you have an old archaic system that has to stay in place, but it's got to be modernized, we do a lot of that stuff. We just do a different model. We do it better. We do it differently. We do not offshore. We do not outsource. We do it right here in Dallas and we kick ass.
You know, and it's always important because no matter what we do in the tech world, everybody thinks we do networks or we do infrastructure or we do security. It is very clear to me now that pragmatic isn't in that space.
Stay in the lane. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And well, really, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it. This looks and feels like it's going to be a great kickoff for the Mecca Minutes.
It's Mecca. It's Mecca.
Man.
If you don't know Mecca, you got to know Mecca.
Yeah. In my company, the EKG group, EKG stands for Everybody Knows Gerry. It's just a play because, I don't know, it worked and it's been working ever since. Great conversation starter. You can find me at ekggroupllc.com. What's Pragmatics?
Just look me up. LinkedIn, Kenton Kistler. Right. You'll find me.
All right. Same here with Gerry Mecca. I'm out there. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.